and we will be live on the YouTubes. Make sure you
We have,
mute yours, Brett.
Yeah.
you have the more.
Yeah. So I took a sip.
But now I want,
Over here, don't change it.
Yeah.
can I X out this?
Nope, just go over here, guys.
But I don't want to have the YouTube page up though.
I think you can close it. It normally doesn't open.
And then, sorry, Travis, we record to the cloud.
Yes, let me make sure this is working. So I'm gonna go ahead and mute this. Yeah, you want to start with like these comments too.
Before we get started, I just wanted to welcome the newest member to our board, Joel Trantham, joining us, recently approved by City Council to be a EAR alternate, sitting in review. So welcome, Joel.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, welcome, Joel. Thanks for being here. Welcome to everybody to the October 23rd, 2024 Bar Large Meeting in the public meeting room at 2 George Street. My name is Trey Watkins, and I'll be serving as the chairman this afternoon. The other board members present this afternoon are Luda Subchek, James Metters, Seton Brown, and Joel Trantham, who you just met. City staff are BD Wortham Galvin, the city architect, Lawrence Courtney, staff architect, and Brad Thomas, the staff architectural planner. The applicants have been required to submit any documents in advance of the meeting. Staff will control the slide presentation that includes everything submitted by the applicant by the deadline in accordance with the submittal requirements. Applicants simply need to ask staff to advance to the next slide during the presentation. Applicant, staff, and board members are required to give their name when speaking. This meeting is being recorded and live streamed to the City of Charleston Public Meeting Channel on YouTube, and your appearance here is your consent to be recorded. The order of the meeting will be as follows. We'll start with an introduction and overview of the project by city staff to the board and for the public. This will be followed by the applicant's presentation. There's a 10-minute time limit, or as determined by the chair, with any questions of the applicant by the board or staff. Any and all presenters should clearly state their name for the record. Persons affiliated with the project, whether it's owners, developers, designers, consultants, should speak during this portion rather than the public comment section. That's followed by the public comment portion. All applications are part of a public meeting. Written public comments were due by noon the day prior to the meeting, and any received comments have been transmitted to and considered by the board members. Written comments will not be read aloud during the meeting unless requested by a member of the board and with permission of the chair. So we've received those and have reviewed those. Any member of the public who wishes to be heard in person, you will have an opportunity to do so. And it's on the agenda at this time, and it's requested that you state your name and address for the record. And to be reminded, there is a 2-minute time limit for those remarks unless extended by the chair. The applicant does not respond to comments made during the public comment portion. That's followed by city staff comments and recommendations. Then the applicant's response or clarification to the public comments and city staff comments and recommendation. This response time has a 5-minute time limit, and the applicant does not have to use the applicant response period if they feel it is not necessary. We will then have our board discussion and vote. The applicant presentation is over and public comment is closed. The applicant may clarify inaccurate information when recognized by the chair by raising a hand and waiting to be called upon. Board members will be polled by the chairperson for comments and for their vote on a motion. The chair shall reread a motion verbatim, and the board member making the motion should correct the chair if he has not reread the motion accurately. Once the motion's in proper order and seconded, each member, when voting, should respond yay in favor or nay not in favor. And the results will be posted on our city website at www.charleston.sc.gov/BAR. All the items are on the agenda there. We do not have any items that have been withdrawn or deferred. The public comments, we do have comments submitted for the Corinne Street HOA PUD garage door discussion. Finally, as a reminder, please turn off all cell phones and other potentially disruptive devices. Please limit your comments to architecture only. Comments related to zoning such as parking, traffic, lot coverage, as well as livability department concerns are not the purview of this board and cannot be voiced here. So I guess we will start with the approval of the board minutes.
I move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Second for approval of the board minutes from last time.
Was not here, so.
Yeah.
Have you had an opportunity to review them?
I'll
All right. Does anybody have any comments, changes, or corrections to the minutes from last time? All right, so we have a motion by Mr. Metters and a second by Mr. Brown. Mr. Trantham, how do you vote?
Yay in favor.
Mr. Brown?
Yay in favor.
Mr. Metters?
Yay in favor.
And Ms. Sobchak?
Yeah, so
And I'll also vote yea in favor. All right. Next up is the first application, 860 Morrison Drive.
860 Morrison Drive is requesting a one-year extension on the vested rights for the demolition of 2 existing buildings. Just to remind the board and everyone in the room, we're gonna have a series of vested rights. I'm only gonna do this the first time, which is any of our applicants applying for vested rights have an automatic 2-year vested right period followed by 5 one-year extensions if submitted within the proper timeframes. This application was submitted within the proper timeframe.
Move
Any,
for approval, Mr. Chairman.
thank you. Do we have a second? Second by Mr. Brown. So that's approval of the, that's a motion for an approval of the extension for 860 Morrison Drive. Mr. Trantham, how do you vote?
Yay in favor.
Mr. Brown?
Yay in favor.
Mr. Metters?
Yay.
Mr. Sobchak?
yeah, in favor.
And also I'm yea in favor.
Mr. Chair, the next 3 vested right applications are from the same owner, so I was gonna read all 3 at once. Is that
I would agree with that procedure. Yes, please proceed.
all right?
So these will be items 2,
2, 3,
and
and 4. 502 King Street is requesting their 4th one-year extension of the demolition of a rear warehouse building originally granted in 2020. The same owner at 510 King is also requesting their 4th one-year extension for approval of demolition. And then 598, 502, and 510 King Street, as well as 86 Mary, all together, requesting their one-year extension of conceptual approval of a mixed-use and hotel development originally granted February 2020.
thank you. Any board discussion or question? All right.
Move for approval.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Brown. So the motion is for approval of items 2, 3, and 4 for the extensions. All 3 would be until February 26th of 2026. Mr. Trantham, how do you vote?
Yay in favor.
Mr. Brown?
Yay in favor.
Mr. Metters?
Yay in favor.
Ms. Sobchak?
Yeah, in favor.
And I'm also yea in favor. All right, great. Procedural stuff out of the way, moving on to item 568 Spring Street.
68 Spring Street is a Category 1 building from 1858 in the Old City District. And they are requesting preliminary review of a 3-story addition to the west side of the existing building for vertical circulation. And I'll just remind you of the location on the next slide. There we go. So this is the location we're talking about, 68 Spring. And we're ready for applicant presentation.
DB, is preliminary review the same as preliminary approval?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you. My name is Vince Graham. I live at 5 Charles Street. And on behalf of my business partner, Bob Holt, who is also my neighbor, we live about 3 blocks from this project. As BD showed you the location briefly, I'll mention again, I said last time that this address is a mile from the Ashley River, a mile from the Cooper River, a mile and a half from Magnolia Cemetery, and a mile and a half from White Point Garden. It's in the center of the historic peninsula. When it was a church, which it was for 100 years, St. James Methodist, the motto was "In the heart of the city, for the hearts of the people." And it's certainly in our heart. I would also like to introduce my associates, my associate Ann Tyler Howell and Jalen Johnson, our structural engineer Craig Bennett, and our architect David Thompson, and his associates Lily Knox and Savannah Puckett. So with that, we're super excited. The good news is the project was, we've been working through the process, and it was recently confirmed as being put on the National Register of Historic Places. So that's what's changed since the last time. But with that, I'll turn it over to Dave.
Thank you, Vince. Thank you to the board. Vince stole the thunder on the big news, which is we got the documentation emailed and mailed this week that it's on the National Register. So that's the first step towards making the approval for our historic tax credit application for a significant undertaking, which is the preservation and renovation of this iconic structure. And as we're going through that process, our team has used the Secretary of the Interior standard for the treatment of historic properties as a guide during the design process. So I'll offer a brief update for the board members present tonight that were not present at the last meeting. Board comment from the April reading of the previously proposed work was to provide a more complete and detailed inventory of the scope and repair work to be performed for the historic structure. The detailed repair narrative and supporting drawings and specifications was submitted by our team in May and was reviewed and approved by staff without comment or objection. As such, this proposal is primarily focused on the proposed addition to the west side of the existing building. January 17th of this year, we reviewed the scope of work and proposed use for the project with Chief Building Official King Granada and Captain Rick Flugie of the Fire Department. During that meeting, it was stated that the use of the existing third floor will require an accessible route and an accessible code compliant means of egress. To satisfy those requirements, an elevator must be provided as a lift is not allowed for more than one story of travel. And a new stair must be constructed to provide a second means of egress from both the third and second floors of the existing building. Secretary of Interior standards state that it's often necessary to make modifications to a historic building to make it compliant with accessibility code requirements. Work must be carefully planned and undertaken in a manner that results in minimal or no loss of historic exterior and interior character defining spaces, features, or finishes. The goal should be to provide the highest level of access with the least impact to the historic building. I'll keep it slow with the clicker. Wait. So this was our April submittal massing study for the previously proposed. And this is our current. So to address the required code compliant needs of the building, 3-story stair and elevator addition is proposed based on unanimous feedback from the board. At the April meeting, we've reconceived the design of the addition to be considerably smaller footprint. Just for reference again, previous in April and current. A distinct building form, so to be a smaller footprint, a distinct building form and be connected to the historic structure by a significant hyphen element. To achieve the smaller footprint, all restrooms were repositioned to be inside the existing historic building rather than inside the proposed addition. And this effort reduced the amount of historic fabric affected by the addition and reveals an additional bay of windows towards the public right of way on the west side. We're gonna look at the plans here in a second, I promise.
And if you need Lawrence to forward, sometimes. Sometimes the
First floor. So just to recap how we got here, and forgive me, Seton and James. So now the bathrooms have been repositioned first floor here. Previously, they were in this piece. And second floor, this is reduced now to only having electrical room, elevator, stair. And the remainder of the bathrooms have now been positioned on the existing third floor balcony. And we're using the existing organ facade to hide 2 of those. So the August board review of this project granted conceptual approval of the project with 2 primary areas of concern to be addressed with this preliminary approval review. This is a rendering of our current proposal with landscape plan and then without. The first area of concern was the height of the addition relative to the height of the existing building. Our team worked with the mechanical engineer to reconfigure the rooftop HVAC equipment and locate 4 mini split condensers at grade behind the addition so that we could reduce the height of the stair tower parapet by 25 inches. The hyphen height has now been reduced by 32 inches. These are significant height reductions and now assure there is no alignment of proposed new elements with historic entablishment improvements. To address staff comments about making the proposed addition distinct from the historic building, the frieze on the stair tower parapet has been removed, and the base, water table, and parapet detailing has been revised, further as shown on sheet A304. The second area for further study was the architectural direction of the hyphen, to assure it is distinct from the historic architecture. The change of material or color was suggested by some board members. And in my opinion, a change of color without a change of material felt architecturally arbitrary. Our team developed several alternate schemes. First, a change of material, which would yield a change of color as well, to clad the hyphen in copper. This felt like it was too loud rather than being subservient. The second was that we explored painted wood siding for the hyphen. This felt out of step with both the existing building and the stair tower in terms of scale and material value. And ultimately, our other proposals for alternate means of cladding the hyphen or expressing it just felt discordant with the original architecture. Ultimately, we felt the best way to distinguish the hyphen was through simplifying the details and increasing the percentage of glazing. The proposed south elevation of the hyphen is now 43% glazed elements. This amount of glazing is 2.5 times the amount from the previous submittal. The detailing of the window openings as well as the parapet is both distinct and less adorned than both the historic building and the stair tower. The finish of the stucco on the proposed addition in hyphen is a lime wash over a hydraulic lime plaster, U.S. Heritage Group, whereas the proposed finish of the historic building is being finished with a mineral paint applied over the existing brownstone and stucco elements, which are currently painted. The finishes of the new construction will therefore be distinct in texture, sheen, and ultimately by subtle variation in color. And we will explore large-scale mock-ups on site throughout the process to fine-tune the installation methods, colors, and textures, and work closely with the city staff during the process to ensure the intent of the board is fulfilled. Small but critical detail is the joint of how the hyphen touches the historic building. This point was raised by Jay White at the last meeting, and I took his comment quite literally as a technical question, which we've detailed with Bennett Engineering and provided on this sheet A109. So the expansion joint is internally dealt with by the use of an L-shaped glide plate. Of course, there's also an aesthetic opportunity here as well to develop a more poetic outward expression of the joint through the architectural detailing. While small in scale and subtle, it's important, and we will develop that detail during construction documents and dialogue with city staff. We believe this proposal achieves the necessary balance between compatibility and differentiation as outlined by the Secretary of the Interior Standards. Differentiation is in the details, such as the fenestration proportions, patterns, and shapes, and the primary form of the stair tower. The building shape is wedded to the construction methods and materials in a traditional masonry and stucco method, appropriate to the form and includes subtle, battered openings at the primary fenestration. We're offering a design to provide minimal required life safety and egress components in a manner which is deferential and complementary to the historic icon. We're asking for your approval of the application with a motion of preliminary approval and the final details reviewed by the staff. Happy to answer any of your questions. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Well, let's hear from the public first, then we'll do the questions. Is that all right?
Sure.
Yeah. Are there any public comments?
Mr. Chairman, fellow board members, my name is Marion Hawkins. I'm president of the Canberra Elliottburg Neighborhood Association. I'd like to thank our residents, Bob Holt and Vince Graham, for their stewardship of this property, and also the architectural team for the development they've done as they've developed this design further and further. This has been presented to our neighborhood association. We have engaged them throughout the process, and we have supported this overwhelmingly and unanimously at our meetings. So on a personal note, my degree is in architecture from Clemson. I worked the profession for several years, and I really applaud this sensitive addition service tower to the project. As a matter of fact, my personal office has been in the basement, still lives in the basement of this building, has been for the last 3 to 4 years. So, but also I want to really commend that I like the fact that they are using the same stucco material and not doing such a drastic, as a typical modernist approach of a different material for the hyphen, as well as the service tower. I feel like this blends in very well. Otherwise, it would stand out and call attention to itself, where this is set back and articulated in such a way that I feel really is a very subtle and beautiful addition. Anyway, by myself and on behalf of the Neighborhood Association, we would encourage the board to approve.
Thank you. Any other further public comment? Right, city staff.
Staff support the hardscape site plan as shown. I know it wasn't discussed tonight, but it's part of the submittal packet, which means it's part of the official review. The parking lot side of the site plan is under an easement, so once approved by BAR, the applicant will need to work with the property owner before making improvements. At both previous board meetings, board and staff requested that the parapet on the circulation addition be reduced as much as possible to reveal more of a historic entablature. The applicant has significantly reduced the addition's parapet and met that condition. Staff support height, scale, and mass of the addition as shown. At both previous board meetings, board and staff requested that the new addition, quote, should be clearly discernible from the old, and that's from the Charleston Standards Policy Statement. At the August meeting, the board's motion was for conceptual approval with further study of parapet height and architectural articulation of the hyphen. In particular, the board asked the applicant to study the joint of where the hyphen meets the historic building and to consider either a different color or a different material or architectural expression that clarifies the distinction between the Category 1 building and the addition while still being compatible. The board did not question the traditional approach to the architectural character, but wanted further discernment of the relationship between old and new as expressed in the hyphen in general, and articulation of the joint of the hyphen and the historic building in particular. While the submittal does show changes to the fenestration in the hyphen, the applicant has not met the board condition related to the restudy of the hyphen. Staff conditions for approval: restudy of hyphen connecting circulation tower to historic structure per board conditions at conceptual review, and staff recommendation is deferral for restudy of articulation of hyphen per board conceptual review motion.
Thank you. Any response?
I think the condition and the opinion is understood. I would take the position that we have in fact differentiated. If we could go back to the previous narrative. I think there's really 3 options that were put on the table, and that we were to consider either a different color or a different material or architectural expression. And I would say that architectural expression is what we've proceeded with through material finish, through the size of the openings, the style of the openings, the fenestration pattern, the proportions, the detailing, and that in fact, to find that line between compatible and different is where we find it.
Thank you so much. While we have you up there for a minute, I know Mr. Metters did have a question. So before we move into the full board discussion.
And you may, or Craig may answer this, I'm not sure. But and this is kind of borderlines on not being BAR. question, but here it goes. Your heritage blended hydraulic lime plaster. There's a concern that I would have with that being applied to concrete block. And over the future, you get some of that block look coming through the surface of the stucco. And I'm wondering about the possible incorporation of, let's see, I might have it here. Like a fiberglass mesh roll in the stucco, on top of the concrete block. And, it's, I see a lot of reinforced concrete block, all full. The joints as they're laid are not back, and so you get a surface application stuck on top of it. And over the years, there are times when, for a variety of reasons, you begin to see the outline of that block coming through. And this fiberglass mesh may be something that you just take a look at. So that's just a suggestion. Not
Happy to look at it. We do have an installer that has done this work with this general contractor on the block, so that's in our favor. And it is a multi-step application, so it's not just the line plaster direct to the block. So there's scratch coat, brown coat.
I saw it.
But yeah,
And
absolutely.
this application is in scratch code. So, and it's a Ethologic project, I think the name. So it's embedded. It's good, but it's just something to look at.
Absolutely. Happy to do that.
That's my only.
Appreciate your technological insight. So, we'll do it. Anything else?
Thank you, Mr. President. Any other questions from the board?
I have a question. In reviewing the documents as presented, it's really at the joint of how the hyphen ties into the existing building. I'm looking at that 2-inch gap and in the drawings, it appears that the first level and then the second and the third are aligned. Is that correct? Or is the first level proud of the second and the third, where that line comes down?
The hyphen is aligned all the way up. What varies between the two is actually the existing pilaster width. That's why there's two separate details shown. So the reveal between the hyphen and the pilaster on A1 and 9, that varies, but the alignment of the wall from top to bottom does not.
Okay. And then as that intersects with the water table at the existing structure, have you given thought to how that joint would work with that water table intersecting the base of the hyphen?
Well, beyond a clean cut and a minimal joint, honestly, we've not. We have, I think structurally, they're independent from one another. So it becomes at that point, what's the waterproofing and then the architectural expression. I think that there's an opportunity still on the table that we haven't yet developed for how that detail is expressed. And that captures two things. The technical question you're asking about it. Physically, we've looked at it in the other two directions. Now, how does that touch? But then it's an opportunity, call it an embellishment, albeit a subtle one, for another layer of reveal, just a little bit of separation that maybe lets that slip into a shadow. It's a big water table.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got on the ladder to measure this, so it's pretty extreme. I think it's probably the sort of answer for putting myself in the dummies category, is that's probably a small expansion joint. I think that's probably too big to express in the detailed gap that covers the 2-inch slip joint. Something I'd love to get into at CDs.
Thank you.
Good question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Any other questions from anybody else? All right. And then we will move into board discussion. Anybody have any comments, board comments?
I think the real issue are these fine details, when Dee talking about deferral. It's not because I don't think it's wonderful. I think it looks great. I think that we should move forward with it. But these subtle details, like you're talking about, they're gonna express themselves and it may change the exterior appearance some. It's gonna be slight, but it needs to be worked out. That's why I believe certainly, regardless of what happens with this motion and vote, that we should see the final details again, or final review should come back to board. But the question is for me, Are any of these final things that you've got to work out gonna affect the way the building looks on the outside that you can see? Are they gonna be so subtle you won't even notice? I don't know. Because the point you brought up is the same that we talked about at the last meeting, that connectivity from the ground all the way to the roof. And you'll work that out and you'll work it out successfully. But, should we defer it because we want to see that detail? And see that worked out? And that's what we've got to, that's what we got to figure out.
I agree. I think generally the architecture and the hyphen has been re-examined as requested from the August meeting. The height's been brought down. Both the board and city staff agree with the height, scale, and mass and architectural direction of it. But I do agree with Mr. Metters that the opportunity for final review should come back to the board.
I have not been in this second conceptual review meeting. But I obviously reviewed what was prior and what we ended up here. Hyphens in general, not easy to create through hyphen. And I think this one is not true hyphen right now. Proportions of the windows, double windows, they do not colorate with anything, which in hyphen probably should not, but it's proportionally called hyphen, the glazing and the solids of the wall really do not work in my opinion. There's architectural direction is not apparent to me here. I think personally, I think you need more glazing, and probably glazing doesn't need to be subdivided in mountains, and maybe it needs to be more, more glass. So it creates the hyphen, which disappears. That's kind of the I see the hyphens. So I think I still have to kind of restudy hyphen in my mind. I think the coming up with heights and all that, where you meet that hyphen with the building, it's all colorates. But treatment of the hyphen is not there yet, in my opinion.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, from my perspective, and looking at the hyphen, I agree there were kind of three options: color, the materials, and then the architectural expression. I think that y'all have definitely embraced the architectural expression piece of it with the glazing, and taken that direction with the finishes on the hyphen itself. I'm not hearing a lot of comments related to changing the color or changing the siding. I throw that out to the board as well. It seems like there's some questions about some of the detailing associated with it and what that architectural expression is. So I'm generally in favor of the restudy with that, but it doesn't sound like it's a complete redo of the design on that.
I still think it could be a combination of all three recommendations rather than, again, I'm speaking from standpoint of view of architectural direction.
I'm looking at the height and the scale and the mass as it has been reduced. I think that's vastly successful in the redesign that has kind of come our way. In looking at the building, I know that there were three options at the last meeting given, and one is this is a very austere building in terms of color. Like it's white. There's the wood doors on the front and there's the roof. So I don't know. I think as the applicant had been making his argument, it was about a series of subtle moves. And as I look at that, there is the differentiation of the punch over the punch versus assembly that are on the main building. There are the incredibly stark elevation of the hyphen, which, you know, has no ornamentation to it that does differentiate it. I still do have a concern about how that really engages, which is what it seems like with the prior review the board had talked about. I think if you do go color with that water table, there'll be a series of how those things collide together, or what happens that might not be as successful if that was the path chosen to move forward or the recommendation from this board. So coming in here and kind of looking at the things that have been said before, I'm willing to listen more to the other board members that have seen this in the variety of the different applications, but those are my general thoughts right now.
All right, well, we need to, any other further board comments or discussion? Would anyone like to make a motion?
We'll make a motion to defer, but
And so the motion is for defer for restudy of the hyphen connecting the tower to the historic structure. Is there a second? Do not hear a second. Do we have any other motions?
Motion, excuse me. Motion for preliminary approval with a continued restudy of the joint along the hyphen.
that works.
Would you like to amend?
Hmm?
Would you like to amend?
Yeah. I don't know, but it's probably discussion more than amending. Because it's a really major element. It's not like we already went through the high scale and mass. So now we are into the actual design preliminary, and that's this is major element which needs to be really addressed. Further studies, not, I don't know how you get that.
So you're talking about the distinction between conceptual and preliminary?
Uh,
I just want to make sure that was clear for.
So the motion on the floor then is preliminary approval with continued restudy of the joint to the historic structure.
Joint,
Yeah, the joint between the hyphen and the,
just the joint. Okay.
yeah, that's the current motion.
Did I state that correctly, Mr. Moon? Is there a second on that motion?
If there's not, I'll make a motion. I just need to think about it a little bit. more.
Sure.
I make a motion to defer this application, but what I'm looking for a submittal to include is the method of attachments and the process of attachments of the addition to the existing building. And I'm not asking as part of this to look at restudying the hyphen or the addition. This hyphen and addition are not my favorite thing, not my style. I understand what you're saying. But the bottom line is, it is an expression that David's brought forward that it is distinctly different from that existing structure as an overall feature, and not just the hyphen. It's the overall design development process, and I think that that's what he's going for, to make it distinctive, and I think that he has answered what we asked him to come back to us with, but I'd like to see how those final details of connection work out, how they affect the view. I'm not asking that this again we can condense this motion, but I'm not asking to for you to restudy or redesign the hyphen.
In your,
But it's a deferral motion.
but it's a deferral.
Yeah.
I was taking notes, although this
So-
particular agenda item is gonna challenge my paper space. But I can reread what I have to see if that's what you want. So deferral for method and process of attachments of addition to existing building.
All right, is there a second for that motion?
Second that.
All right, we have a second. So it's proper for vote. So the motion again, that y'all are voting on, if you restate it again.
Sure, is for deferral, for method and process of attachments of addition to existing building.
Mr. Trantham, how do you vote?
Yay in favor.
Brown?
No, not in favor.
Mr.
Yay.
Myers? Subcheck?
This is deferral, so I cannot be against
You can, it just means it didn't pass and we have.
Yeah.
Well,
I guess
exhaustive.
nay.
I'm sorry, you vote?
Nay.
Nay. And I am yay in favor,
So I have 3-2.
3-2, so the motion passes. And I would just make a comment for the record too, that it is, the study is limited to those connections with, at this point, there was no motion related to the actual hyphen itself. All right, thank you. All right. That takes us to number 6.
Number 6 is 141 Meeting Street, Category 1 building dating from 1876 to 78 in the Old and Historic District. Applicant is requesting preliminary approval for a new addition to the rear of 141 Meeting Street and connecting link to the Gibbs Museum of Art. Next slide will orient everyone to the location. And then we'll be ready for applicant presentation when Mr. Schmidt is ready.
Oh, you are ready.
Yeah, so when you're ready,
When you're-
Mr. Schmidt is ready. Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
Joe Schmidt, Evans Schmidt Architects. We're coming back. to the Final, review. The last time the thing we were asked to study was to add more fenestration to the Meeting Street facade. And this would be particularly on the side of the property line of the Gibbs. So as you're looking even at this rendering, it's what's directly above the rectangular opening. No other changes were requested, nor have we made on the rest of the project. One thing I'll point out is we did not incorporate landscaping into this, since it's not supposed to be part of the proposal, but it is heavily landscaped now with a row of elm trees and podocarpus, which will be remaining in these locations. So you will not really quite see it like you're looking at it here. It'll be 2 split seams. And I guess if you want, Lawrence, you can flip through them as you see fit. In time, it's been, we literally boiled down to that point. Details for everything to look at. So you can see the previous and current here, we've added that extra pair of window there on the second level of the link between the two buildings. Yeah, that's the only change that we restudied or felt needed to be restudied or we asked to restudy as we progressed
Yep,
All right,
no, that's,
sorry.
we appreciate brief.
Yep,
Yep.
thank you. All right, any questions from the board?
One question. So the only change is that you added windows?
where the added windows, correct?
Which is funny. Last time, when I was leaving, you said one thing that museums don't like is windows. So just wanted to make a comment. Thank you. That's enough.
That we did what was requested, and I'm working very hard to convince Angela that it would be a good connection to pull people from one building to the other with that natural light, so working that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there, thank you so much. Is there any public comment? All right,
Okay. The board and staff previously supported height scale and mass and architectural direction of the north and south elevations during the June meeting. In addition to height scale mass and architectural direction of the north and south elevations, at the August meeting, board and staff supported the general direction of the bridge between the E.B. White Building and the Gibbs Museum with the condition of restudy of the Meeting Street elevation so that it is not so austere and blank from the view of the public right-of-way. Applicant has added fenestration to the Meeting Street elevation of the bridge and has met the restudy conditions. During the June BAR meeting, staff supported the moving of the transformers for the benefit of the project. Staff noted, quote, "At the preliminary stage, staff require further study of the specific material and design of the proposed screening for the transformers. No such study appears on the drawing set. Staff require that this applicant or the site design team provide such design documentation during final review as a requirement for approval of final review. There needs to be better coordination communication among the design teams on this matter. Without such documentation being provided, a final review application will be considered incomplete and therefore will not be reviewed." Staff conditions for approval, number one, this applicant has seen many times because this is do not disturb during construction our precious category 1 building. That's my sort of colloquial way of saying what the first condition says. And then staff condition number 2, again, are sort of stated in comments, clarity on which design team will be providing the information related to the screening of the transformers as part of their final review submittal package. And staff recommendation is preliminary approval with board and staff conditions and final review by staff.
Any further comments or response?
Added that, we got that authorization for the agreement by BMOC to, they will take care of the transformer screening, because it's not even on the property that we can build upon ourselves. So they submitted that to staff for review.
Yeah, but after this.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Understood. All right, thank you so much. All right, board discussion. Is there any board discussion on this one? If not, I will take a motion.
This is actually another hyphen.
Yes.
Improperly.
True.
I'll make a motion for preliminary approval with, there are no board comments, but staff conditions and final review by staff.
Understood. So the motion is for preliminary approval with staff conditions and final review by staff. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Brown seconds. Mr. Trantham, how do you vote?
Yay in favor.
Mr. Brown,
Yay in favor.
Mr. Motors,
Yeah.
Mr. Subcheck.
In favor.
I'm also yay in favor. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Joe.
All right. Take square number 6. Now to number 7. Or no,
No,
that's
number
it.
6.
That's it. Now we have the garage. We're trading seats.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Thank you. I bid you adieu.
Yeah.
I have to go to an award ceremony with
Yes.
my daughter. Otherwise, I would not want to miss a discussion of garage doors.
Thank you for sending that follow-up.
Absolutely. That's why I wanted to do that before, since I was gonna have to get out.
All right,
You're in the capable hands of staff architect. and-
yes. Well, thank you all for being here on this. I know it's an important issue for y'all. For this one, we're going to do some background information, then we're going to have some public comment, and then we'll have the staff and board discussion. So with that, I will turn it over to you all.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let the record reflect that Dr. Gordon Galvin has left and she has been replaced by staff architect Lawrence Gordon. First, this is a staff request for continued board direction on Rain Street, HOA, PUD garage doors. And background here. 3 Corrine Street, Unit A is part of a 36-unit development under the Corrine HOA, which was approved by the Board of Architectural Review, BAR, on March 10th, 2004. According to a 2020 BAR flow chart, properties in the Old City District fall under BAR purview if they are at least 100 years old, rated, previously reviewed by BAR, or visible from a public right-of-way. And this is actually both previously reviewed by BAR and visible from a public right-of-way. Some character-defining ground floor features of the development include wooden garage doors on the front, which are perhaps the most prominent and most significant, most visible. Wood limbered panels on the side and wooden access doors on the side that align with the garage doors. Additionally, there are steps up to entryways, and there are balconies as well. So some further background is that a garage door was installed at 3 Corinth Street, Unit A, without BAR approval. The after the fact garage door does not match the original design approved by the BAR in 2004. Other residents of the HOA have also replaced garage doors without the appropriate permits or BAR review. The after the fact garage doors, the after effect garage door replacement at 3 Corinth Street, Unit A, was denied by BAR staff. This denial was then appealed by the property owners to the BARL at their September 25th, 2024, last month's meeting. The board denied that appeal with the direction that the replacement door can be metal, but needs to be more closely matching the aesthetic of the original door, light pattern, profiles, depth, color, etc. So this slide here shows what it what was originally there and what has replaced it on Unit 3A. There are other doors that have been replaced or are actually missing in this development. And so staff is seeking direction on how the board wants to proceed in terms of handling this overall replacement over time with individual garage doors. So for now, we'd like to hear from the public.
Okay, yeah, if there's any public comment, you can now be recognized. If you would stand to the podium and you would give us your name and where you reside, please. Thank you for being the first one.
I am Mia Arnone. I live in 3 Corinne Street, Unit B, so I am the next door neighbor of this current house. I currently have a permit that is going through the application process to get my garage door fixed. I came to the previous meeting last month and I basically just kind of stated how the wooden garage doors are not practical. They're too expensive to replace. They rot and we live off of Moore Street, which floods every time it rains. And with that information, you guys decided that we could do metal. And then at one point you said composite, which was way too expensive to replace with. So my only issue is that with the metal garage doors, it's kind of hard to get that exact look of a wooden door, which is what you guys are looking for. So this is my neighbor. To me, obviously I'm not an architect, but it looks pretty close to me. And we submitted something somewhat similar, but not the exact same. I think the windows on it are different. The coloring is a little closer to what the wooden door is, but just taking into consideration the fact that getting it as close to a wooden garage door without it actually being wooden is extremely expensive to do. And that's kind of where the issue lies with us.
Is your garage door wood?
So mine's currently wooden and it does not work, which is, has been a major issue because I've been without a working garage door for 2 months now while this whole process is kind of played out.
When you say it doesn't work, do you mean that it is,
It is stapled to the house right now because
do you mean that the wood is failing or that the mechanical won't lift?
the wood is rotted and the cables are fried, the springs need replaced.
Okay.
And it just doesn't open. It's stapled to the house right now so that it stays secure. And we looked into getting it just repaired instead of replaced, but they said it would be the same amount to replace it as it would to repair it. And we talked to 3 different garage door companies, all of which said, whatever you do, don't replace it with wood because you're gonna have to replace it again in 5 years because once the water hits that wooden garage door, it starts rotting. Once it starts rotting, it's like a disease and it spreads. And the whole process happens all over again. I understand the wooden features are like key on these houses, but it's just not practical, especially if you own the house and you're not renting it and you're gonna be there for a while. And then just having to replace your garage door every 5 years is just not practical at all.
So, Mr. Chairman, Lawrence, this is fact finding, right? It's a fact finding.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
do you, I just want to make sure. So
You have the floor.
it is, do you think your garage door, do you know if it is from the 2004 construction or has it already been replaced one?
No, it's the original one.
All right, any other questions from the board? This particular public though?
So, I guess this is a general question, but because you're, first person up here, I'm gonna ask it. Is there an HOA for the Corinne Street buildings?
Yes, so there is an
And
HOA.
is it functioning?
it is functioning, and I just bought this house in May, so, and I'm from Pennsylvania, so this whole VAR thing is very new to me.
That's quite all right. So I have a few other questions. Are there regular meetings of the HOA?
Yes, and I came to the HOA with this,
Okay,
and I asked.
hold for 1 second, because I have a few questions that, do you pay dues to the HOA?
Yes,
Okay, and in good standing?
Yeah.
And most people also in that development are also paying dues and are most likely in good standing?
Yeah.
Okay, and there's an elected board associated with it?
Mhm.
Okay, and do you have the bylaws of the HOA by chance?
yes.
Okay. But I would imagine that it's supposed to enforce the original PUD or requirements as associated with the Board of Architectural Review?
I would imagine, but whenever I moved in and saw that the garage door is just not gonna hold up, and then eventually I let it try and hold up for as long as it could. And then eventually it just completely stopped working. I emailed the HOA and asked what the process was for getting a new garage door. And they responded saying that all you need to do is submit a picture to them for approval. That it kind of matches the rest of the garage doors in the community. I didn't know the VAR was even a thing for these garage doors, because like I said, I'm from Pennsylvania, never had to do this. So that's why we kind of like moved forward with the process, and then our neighbor, this happened with him, and now we have a permit and application process, but.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much. Other public comment? Great. Would you just tell us your name, please, and address?
Stacy Pape, and I'm actually her mom. So I was involved in the purchase of the home. We did exactly what she had said, but we also walked through the neighborhood, and there were quite a few of the steel doors there. So we were told that that was a approved door. And we did try to match it as close as we possibly could, and that was what we told the garage door companies. We had 3 come out and give us estimates. The garage door did completely break, and literally it was so heavy, almost came crashing down, almost killed us when she and I were trying to lift it and operate it in the meantime. So because that same door is throughout the community, and I think 4, 5, 6 houses, I believe, have the steel door. The only difference we could really see is that obviously the window configuration, so there'd be smaller windows. And I think when the other 3 unit came up, that was they said the steel door was okay, but the window configuration needed to be more similar. And the one that we submitted does have the smaller windows. So we feel like it is literally as close as we can possibly get to the original look, but with a product or a material that will actually hold up. And side by side, I don't know if anybody has submitted any pictures. I didn't know that we couldn't bring pictures. They had to be done yesterday. So today I went around taking all these pictures. But the wooden doors, almost every one of them looks terrible. I mean, they are rotted, they're split, they're really in terrible shape. And of course, the steel doors look 1,000 times better. It's kind of like a picture's worth 1,000 words. It's night and day. The community looks cleaner and nicer with the newer doors. There's 2 that are wooden, or ones that are, like you said, there's no doors at all. And one that's broken and it is permanently broken. So when you drive by, it's halfway down all the time. And so it's, to me, is much worse, and most likely probably because they cannot afford a new door. And so I would much rather, in being a resident or being a resident of the community, of seeing a fully functioning door that is in good shape than one that's not working, half open or rotted out. I think it's a much better complement to the community for sure. And I think the reason her door is stapled shut is because we were under the impression that we met all the criteria, and we went ahead and proceeded. We got the HOA approval. The HOA seems to be very, if they have regular meetings, I don't think we're aware of them. They may have regular board meetings, but it's very minimal. governing HOA. I mean, I think it's mostly, it's like $100 or something like that, and it's just, there's not a whole lot of involvement. I believe the person that actually is in this unit is on the board of HOA of this particular unit. So they might be able to, over here, but maybe they could speak more to it. But the day, I guess, we were having our new door installed is when they put a cease and desist on it. Right, stop work order. And so they literally nailed the door back up, no operation. So she and her roommates have had their cars towed because they've been out on the street. And recently her car was literally sideswiped because she can't get the golf cart out of the garage while she was in school, because it's nailed shut. So we're trying to get at least even a temporary approval to get an operating door, which is,
Okay.
I literally flew home from Pittsburgh for this hearing. So it's hard and it's upsetting. We're just trying to get something that she can have a working garage door.
I understand. Well, thank you for your time. Thank you for being here. Are there any other public comments? All right. So the staff has done some research and so we'll hear from them next.
I am Lawrence Courtney. I am staff architect with the Department of Planning City of Charleston. And as we just heard, we have a little bit of a mess here. And that's why staff is before you this evening seeking direction. We have done some research. We have found what in the months since last met, and found out that there really aren't a whole lot of opportunities for replacement if the goal is to reproduce what's there now, which was approved by the BAR in 2004. That being said, first, our goal obviously is to help out these good folks and to help everybody out by finding a solution that will lend uniformity to this PUD, which is in fact in agreement with the PUD documents, and yet gives them a little bit of flexibility to, lack of a better word, explore options and come back to staff with their options and let staff work with them either independently or better, have their HOA work with staff to identify appropriate solutions. Hopefully several that can work and not have to burden the board, the homeowners and staff further with all of this mess. So in BAR staff has researched alternative garage doors to present to the board that match the design character of the originally approved garage doors in order to resolve unreviewed garage door replacement and to handle future garage door replacements at a staff level. Garage door alternatives include a carriage house, a door from the carriage house door company, which is a paint grade wood door. Now, let me be very careful in saying that the way that wood garage doors are manufactured now is apparently a lot different from the way that they were manufactured back in 2004, and these manufacturers have dealt with the whole flooding, bottoms of the doors, staying wet for long periods, and warping and splitting and cracking it and doing what wood does on those conditions. And what in doing some research on this, what I have found is that what we are seeing here are not really what it's not really apples to apples. These are fundamentally what you might think of and actually are termed, interestingly, as composite wood doors. In my mind, they're better termed as a laminated wood door. But they are better, more robust doors. The code provides that they be constructed these days of treated lumber. They were not back then. So that's a big deal as well. And another company that you'll see is the Eden Coast composite overlay door. And just for your reference, all the drawings that you'll see represent what can be done for either door option, not just the carriage house door option. And furthermore, let me say that we're not advocating only these doors. We're interested in entertaining any door manufacturer. It's really the character of the door and the look and the feel of the door that matters. So with that, I'd like to show you some doors, and hopefully we can all come to a common mind that this is really the look that we're after, regardless of the manufacturer. And then proceed from there. So this shows one of the classic doors that is made by this one is
Carriage house.
Carriage house door company.
Thank you. Yes, and it's top, and this door must in our minds of the ones that we have looked at, this door most appropriately represents the door that is there now, that we have found. This,
May I ask a question
yes,
quickly? Is it sectional though? Is
pardon
it
me?
sectional though? It doesn't have the
Oh.
joint?
It has 4 panels, I think, right?
But
Hmm,
how-
Yes,
Yeah.
it's four panels.
So that's. Okay, so
Oh.
it is sectional.
Yes.
Upward acting spatial doors. I think all of the doors that you'll see, if they can be made as just tilt-up doors, but they're also available as upward acting sectional doors.
Very different mechanism.
Is the materials on this, what you described earlier, is the laminated wood door?
Yes.
Okay.
Which is exactly what?
Well,
So
that's it. It's
like hollow.
They call it, I spoke with a fellow on Long Island this morning and said, you say that your door is made out of plyron. What does that mean? And he said, it's fundamentally laminated plywood, but it's laminated in such a way with, it's laminated under pressure. It's laminated in such a way that it is indeed a very tight bond. It's made with resistant treated wood.
It's fair to say that in general, if you look up a definition like I just did, it's plywood. I mean, they're plies of wood that are pressed together using epoxy glue, and
So it's not like hollow metal,
No,
so it's hollow inside and
No,
you just apply.
no, it's not
the-
hollow.
It's a
It's
solid
solid, let's say veneers. Let's say you take 1/8" veneers and glue them together. I don't remember what the thicknesses are, but you're gluing those together like that and then pressing them. And as to their durability, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that they're,
And how light.
I believe it's wood grain and it's a resin fiber
That's
that's pressed into that so that it's a kind of a solid surface material. It's a composite. We've actually used these doors on Sullivan's Island, where there's flooding concerns and there's issues that are out there, the pylon.
and they know
next year,
the
yeah. We just installed it a year ago, so I don't know that we've had long-term duration in order to know, but when we researched it, that was,
certainly.
They look outstanding.
There is a reveal in the pressed metal. There's a fairly minimal reveal between the panel and kind of the styles that you would see in the pressed metal in that type of material, because I believe it's Plyron and Extera, that one of them is, and I believe it's the Extera is, no, Plyron, I believe is the thicker, almost like board-like material, and then the Extera is the kind of panel-like material that fits within it. So there is a reveal in the front face between kind of the styles and the panel of the door.
Actually, it would be nice to have that photo of that Southern Island. But anyway.
So yeah, to continue with the
I'm
presentation,
sorry.
you have, we have another option as well that you're looking at.
well, and back to our research, we heard Mr. White last month say, and by all means, do not use a steel door because it will rust out and you will have the same problems with a steel door that you're now having with wood doors. So we thought, okay, let's try aluminum. So we researched aluminum and found that we really couldn't find anything that even came close to this look or character. And they just really did not work. Then we tried actually, fiberglass. And there are some on the market, they're, in my mind, they're relatively new, they're untried, untested, and I'm old school, I like things that seem like they're going to last. And it's apparently does. So with that, let me get to, another factor is cost. And we have been told to get a good composite door would cost 10 or 12,000, and yet we have found one that's about 7 here, and believe if you were to buy them in numbers, realizing that all of these doors will likely have to be replaced incrementally over time. But you could likely bring down this cost significantly. I'm not sure how much, but anyway, this was felt like at least it was getting towards middle ground of sorts that we all might live with. So
I have one question for you.
sure.
The other homes that are on Corinne and Morris, because that's really all part of the PUD. There are other examples of people replacing the garage doors that are not in line with the initial BAR review, correct?
That's what I am told. I personally have not seen them.
Okay, thank you.
So with that, that's basically where we are, and I would welcome any board discussion on this that might lead us towards that path that gets us somewhere.
So are we trying to create some kind of guidance?
Yeah, so it's my understanding what we have done in the past is at least as it relates to some windows that we've basically created some sort of a window schedule or specifications for windows that we have given to staff that says, hey, if they meet these specs or these particular products, it can be a staff level approval, doesn't have to come to the full board. So it's my understanding that the staff is presenting these as potential doors for us to approve, such that based on those specs and those looks, that they could approve those at that level. It doesn't prevent someone from submitting a different type of door, but that would then come back up to this board for approval. But trying to give some direction to the owners association and to the individual owners as to what is an approved replacement door that would not be the exact same wooden door that has been previously approved.
Is we heard the HOA didn't know on their own that they have to be involved with their area is purview to BAR, so they pre-approved or approved those doors. Is that, and then it was found that it's another level. So
Yeah, I think that's a separate issue.
Yeah.
For
Yeah,
sure.
but
It's my understanding that the PUD does not own or control the garage doors or the units, that they're individual townhomes owned by the individual property owners. And while there's a level of approval there for the overall
Yeah,
community,
PUDs
it's still
PUDs
subject to our
have,
approval.
covenants, the guidelines.
Yeah,
the
and
downloads.
that's kind of what gets me, I mean, and by the. Yeah, I see the opportunity for what we've done with windows in the past, but when you have a HUD like this, there's a certain architectural style that is consistent across the entire project. So providing options is going to, I think, negatively impact a neighborhood like this, especially when they were all designed in a similar fashion.
Well,
Um,
I worked on PUDs, created PUDs, and you still have to go through ARB, like in Mount Pleasant.
Sure, and that's fine, but
City.
I'm talking specifically about Brandon Morris Street here, is that they currently all have a similar, not a similar, the exact same design, or at least the intent is for them to have that. And it was at the time of approval as well. And first, I think, you know, the HOA, the South Carolina Consumer Affairs, if you want to file a complaint, you can do that with them for the HOA, because I think that that's really the cause of the problem right here. But as it relates to this issue, I think rather than giving options, staff or the board need to funnel to one so that it remains consistent across the neighborhood in
So
quotation.
today we're not specifically looking at certain locations. We are looking at the.
We are trying to
guidelines.
today, the goal is to try to give the staff some
Yeah.
direction so that they can handle this at the staff level, and we don't have to handle it for every single applicant at the board level, so that these people can get their doors replaced and move down the road.
Yeah.
So
Correct me if I'm
Those are
wrong,
already-
we're having board discussions so that Lawrence and the rest of the city staff can go back and put together a plan. We're not making a decision. Right?
well, we are trying to give them our decision on what the architectural intent of these doors would be. Because last time there was a prior application came in and the question was, can it be replaced? There was a material question.
Yeah.
And we agreed that it could be a metal replacement. Staff has done a bunch of, is my understanding is they've done a bunch of research and found that replacing these doors with the architectural intent of what was the original approval in 2004 has been very tough. And they, with their superior knowledge. And so they have now come back to this board and said, we've researched it, we found it. These are two particular products, right, that will work, that they believe meets the architectural intent of it, and also addresses the flooding concerns, and are looking for, hey, if this meets, there's a certain set of specs that come out of this, there's a certain look that comes out of this. We can then give that back to the staff for them to deal with it at a staff level. And if there's something that falls outside of that, someone has a different application, certainly they can put it into us, but that would then come back to us. But we're trying to give some precedent so the staff can handle the issue. Yeah, thanks, Jamie.
So I sent a letter to BD earlier today. Was everybody copied on it?
Yes.
I mean, she responded and this is a question launch, so. Okay. We want to treat this like we do with windows. For windows, they can be similar, but from a different manufacturer, and if someone wants to, what you were saying, wants to vary from that, then they come to the board. But can you send me to that policy we have with windows? You know, where you say, okay, I know generally what she's talking about, but
Yeah.
what is that? Because I mean,
That was developed by the VARS administrator. And it lists maybe 5 windows, and they of course would entertain looking at others, but those were ones that they're saying if if you use one of these windows, we will approve it
At staff level.
at staff level.
So I think what we're tasked with, at least according to the correspondence I have with her, is let's create something similar to that so that this can be approved at staff level. And I think what,
That is our goal.
okay,
Yes, but unfortunately, all we have at this point are these two doors.
understand.
Now, as time goes on and folks bring in others for our review, hopefully that list will grow and there will be more options.
Right,
Okay,
because
well-
those two doors just match more or less what is original was on that particular location.
So would I, I'd like to stay with that a minute, because I mean, if we can actually pull it up on our screen, what is, how can I find that BARS guideline for windows? Because we might be able to say, let's copy and paste this, not with the manufacturer's makes and models.
Or we can create
Well,
our
no,
own.
well, I'd like to just look at it first.
Or we
Is that
can,
available right now or?
And I'm not suggesting we use the same make, model, numbers, anything else, but just the format for, at least let's look at it, because that's what BD's asked us to do.
well, and that's where I think that we're not necessarily making the decision to write the content. We're charging city staff with saying,
Exactly.
this is the direction we'd like you to go in,
That's
go for it, and then.
So I don't think it has to be that detailed,
Yeah.
in other words.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, but I'm saying, I don't know what it is. I mean, I don't think I've ever read that BARS.
Like if someone comes into the permit center
Yeah.
and it's for, I believe our demo purview is where this list is located. Someone comes in wanting to replace the windows, we have 5 windows of different manufacturers. And if you come in with like those specific windows, we're like, you're good to go at a staff level. Again, someone could come in with a similar spec of a window, similar specs, similar material and whatnot, that's not exactly that window, but that gives staff and applicants a guideline of to what you're looking for in.
But I guess what James is asking, what is this 5?
Yeah, he's
What
looking.
Oh,
for
he's
the-
asking what
He's
the
looking for
actual
the policy
5.
document,
Yeah,
yeah.
I wanted to just look at the policy document, the guideline that was laid out there, because it may be just literally, this is what we're looking for, this is the framework, so we have to take these details out and put these new details in, but that's gonna be the same guideline on the permit on the line.
Yeah, and I don't know that we have to develop that here. I think we
I'm
can
not
say,
Trying
yeah.
to develop it, I
Okay.
just would like to actually see.
wanna
it.
see-
yeah.
I
Let's do it.
I don't have that available right now. I'm not sure if I can.
I
So-
don't see it on the website.
Yeah, I
I'm
didn't
trying
see
to
it.
find on
I
the
mean,
website.
that's like, I didn't see it either, but I like it. I mean, I think the kind, I think that's what Benny's saying that she wants to do, and I'm all for it, because I think that then you come in and you go, I can pick from these. or-
Okay.
And if I can't pick from these, then you gotta go to the board. But I got the concept, that's what we wanna do. I just have never been able to find not never, I don't really look this much, but I'd like to see what that is, and then go, yeah, I think that's great. I like that
So
concept's great.
if there's an opportunity for that to be sent around to the boards for us to review to give final direction, I think that would be most, is kind of what we're.
With
asking for.
seeing
Well, I
the
think we
list
need to,
change-
while we're together this month, if we can, is take a motion to somehow, move this ball forward for them. Otherwise, they've got to wait a whole nother month.
Yeah.
Uh,
Can I ask
With
what,
contingency to James to study.
Sure.
That's about it.
Well, we can always call a special meeting too.
well, I just, staff really, I mean, the board can absolutely go with deferral. If so, staff would want like ultra specific specs of what exactly you're looking for. However, staff really is looking for y'all to vote.
But so I'm asking you then as staff, I'm reading BD's note to me. It says, we want this to be like we do with Windows. So what I want to know is, what does that mean?
I
And
can
if I
try and
can-
find it on my phone.
Yeah, because
for
if
you
I can
real quick.
get that, I can go, yeah, I'm all on board with that. I mean, that'd be great. Because I mean.
Well, let me ask this question, besides what the format of this looks like, from the board, from a discussion standpoint, are we okay with or want to discuss further the 2 options on these doors that staff has presented as being acceptable.
Individually approved just for that project and not for the community.
I'm talking about in general for the community. It would be the appropriate doors for the community.
I think we don't
Thank you. That's-
Can we speak about what the proposals were?
It's,
Not at this
Was
stage.
after we were spoken though, your proposal, so we didn't have a chance to vote on it.
The public doesn't comment after you've had the opportunity to.
Yeah, I mean, I want to read, I just want to read.
It's not just this. too.
We hadn't seen the proposal till now, so we should be able to comment on that. I mean, it's-
Okay.
this
So
board
at
needs
this
to-
stage, this is just a board discussion of, and it's not even on a particular application. We have been asked by staff to consider this to help give them additional direction to help y'all.
So one of those door options is against city code.
I can show you.
No, this is simple. And that's what's for me. It's not, yeah, well, I didn't use that. So there, and I don't know about what it is. Yeah, that's it.
yes.
That is number 5. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's all. I was just,
Okay.
I've never seen this. I've read it
That's
before,
all.
but I,
We don't have to. prove it.
It's relatively new.
Just do.
Okay.
Yeah.
but I
We
get
don't
that.
have to.
It might be almost a year old now, but it's,
It puts a lot of load on y'all to make.
We are not choosing.
But
We are
it
choosing the way.
gives us
The overall
a
architectural intent and
list
specs
that
of
we
it,
can have
basically,
folks in it
to
and
give
say,
them
listen,
direction.
Yeah,
to see
but
whether or
it's
not
not
they-
necessarily
You're
just
good.
to manufacture.
I mean, I think it's that
Well,
what
no, I
I
don't think
don't
it's limited to
understand
that
too
either.
is,
I agree.
are we treating this
Yeah.
differently than any other homeowner? Say homeowner across the street wants to come in and use the same door. Is that also, are we assigning this just to planned unit development, or is it something
Do you have that up?
in this district?
It's in my mind, is specific to this PUD.
Yeah.
So then I have a problem with it. Because this should apply to, as I put in my note to BD today, even if another house is in an HOA. From a city perspective, notwithstanding the HOA, it should have the same guidelines as these folks who have an HOA that's not doing their job or doing the job, whichever one it is. But I think I maybe understand what you're saying. It's applicable to another HOA. You just pick one from one of these companies that's appropriate for that HOA. Is that what you're saying? 'Cause I don't know how we could use this just for this one HOA.
Whereas, I mean, this would not be something that we would use over at the development on the east side.
Correct. It would just be specific to this PUD.
Which is funny. I get completely what you're saying now.
Well, you said.
I
Yeah,
mean,
but
it's,
I was under the impression this was for anybody who came in anywhere with windows.
My understanding is it's specific for this development. This PD.
Wait, for the windows, it's just for that district that list is on.
it's the demolition purview district.
Yes, that should, yeah.
So then we're looking for it just to be in that district. No, this is a different district.
That is just, we're trying to create a similar understanding and list similar to that for this PUD.
Really for any home on Corinne Street and Moore Street, odd
Yes,
numbers up to 51.
yes. The goal is to not make every single person trying to come
Yeah.
in for a garage door have to come before the BAR. They have to come to staff, get the staff approved based on the specs and the design and the materials. And then we can process it much quicker that way.
Because you wouldn't use these as a block away on Moore Square.
Yeah, correct.
All right, so do we, is there anybody that wants to make a motion or I'll make one?
So you're gonna have this essentially in every PUD throughout the city. Where you have jurisdiction, you create one for it.
No, this discussion for right now is just revolving this PUD. This is not going to apply to every.
But if another PUD comes in here, they're gonna wanna have the same rooms, whether it's this selection of these doors or not, they're gonna wanna have the same opportunity and protections as As this group has.
they're gonna want to have the same opportunities 20 years from now when things start to fail, basically.
And reason why, James, it is because the character of EUDs all across peninsula are simply different.
Right.
So,
And this was subject to prior approval by the BAR, the original plans, and now we're altering or going different than what the original BAR approval process
Okay.
was.
All right.
So there's a precedent there that we're deviating
I
from.
missed that.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
And so that's why it's applicable here.
Okay. And it could happen again. We gave another approval in 20 years from now. Okay.
For
I-
buds,
I got it.
for
Yeah, there's
buds,
already a
case by
precedent.
case
I got it.
basis.
And so we've given them in whatever, March 10th of 2004 set the precedent. And now we're deviating from that.
And that relates to all addresses associated, because they're individually owned now, that is affiliated with all of the addresses in that initial PUD review, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the element that helps me is the fact that we had gotten that approval, given them that approval in 2004.
So that's really what's binding us and why it would be limited to this particular PUD.
And Lawrence, so that's one, and what's the other one look like?
the other one was really, we don't have a drawing like this of the other one, but it's basically this other company. It's sort of like this door, but it would be resembling that other door that you just saw. They don't have that, whatever reason, their website didn't have anything like that.
And what are the materials of this other manufacturer?
These are both essentially, like you were saying, like that Plyron product that you had used.
Are they both the same material? Because wasn't one a metal, or did I see one was a metal whenever you?
The carriage door one, correct me if I'm wrong, Lawrence, is the wood composite mixture that we're talking about. I believe these, just from the description on this brochure here, is strictly just a composite material.
And there was a comment in the last board meeting that talked about materiality and understanding the plight of water intrusion in the city. Metal or aluminum is just inappropriate for those buildings. Wood or something that looks enough like wood. Fits in. I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm sorry, ma'am.
Mr. Brown has the floor.
That wood or wood composite is most appropriate for the context of the neighborhood. Thank you, Chairman.
All right, at this time, unless there's any further discussion, I'd like to try to take a motion. I will be happy to make a motion. I would make a motion to provide the staff approval for the submitted doors or their equivalents to process applications associated with this particular PUD.
Mr. Chairman, I would say that, but I would like to ask you to include, if you're willing,
Please.
include one sentence or two sentences that this was previously approved by the BAR in 2004, and we're modifying that approval. Just to tie these two things together with this one, but I mean, or not, but that was just something that was important.
Understand.
Explaining it to me.
Yep. I believe it is part of the record, is included as part of their presentation. I think Lawrence addressed that at the beginning as well, but I'm happy to include that with it as well. So I'll modify the motion to say that we are making, the motion is to modify the original March 10th, 2004 approval to allow for the presented garage door options or equivalent or equal to the staff at the staff level.
I'll second that.
Mr. Tram, how do you vote?
Yay in favor.
Brown?
Yay in favor.
Mr. Metters? Subcheck?
Yeah, in favor.
I'm also yay in favor.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Lawrence.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What's that?
No, they are.
Yeah.
Good to see you again too. Thank you for but clear way of conveying different things. And I really do appreciate that, especially being here on my first meeting, the way you're going to help me control and also to seeing and Luda, it's nice to be joining a board that have their clarity with what they're saying.
That's what it's best. What am I supposed to do?
They're cool, Norm.
One more, it's been nice to meet you as well.
Yeah, thank you.